This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Thank you for coming and joining us this evening for the learning of Teres Hashem. As always, we begin with Shustam Hadasir of Landau with continued appreciation to all of you for coming and making this year possible. A special thanks to those that are here in the Northeast, as tonight is our really first cold evening. Thank you very much. Thank you. And the last minute, we have a sponsor, one of our steady Talmidim, Ruben and Irma Alexander, are sponsoring in honor of this year. Everybody listens to it in all of its different ways, here and on CDs and tapes and Kolaloshin and TorahAnytime.com and in Dialog here. So they're sponsoring it in everyone's honor, and they should be gesund and have everything wonderful. We learn with the tefillah that all those that are in touch with the dreaded machla, known as Yen Machla, the related diseases, should have a refuah shalem, all of us and our loved ones should always be healthy. And we learn with the tefillah that all those that are waiting their shidduch should find their shidduch quickly and easily. All those that are waiting children should be blessed with Zarakah, everybody, healthy mommy, healthy baby. Those that are looking for parnasa should find a great parnasa, and all of us should have lange gesund ziksa shalom bayit. Amen. Before going on to this week's parasha, I want to make a comment about the reflection that I had from last week's parasha. You know, the vision of the ladder, believe it or not, is one of the earliest things that children acquire in their chinuch in preschool. I mean, one of the great arts and crafts is to make, with the popsicle sticks, to make a ladder and color it. You know, the vision of the ladder is ingrained in children from a very young time. And we spoke last week that one of the lessons of this multifaceted vision, prophecy, was that the ladder represents tefillah. Sulam is the gematria kel, voice, and the ladder represents the way to connect with Hashem from this world. Right? So it says there's mutzav artzav, roisha magiga Hashemayim, reaches the heavens, and the malachim, says the Zayar, that went up and down instead of down and up. Well, the malachim that went up are the malachim created by our prayers that go up and bring our prayers above, and then the malachim that came down were the malachim sent by Hashem to execute our requests. Now, if you look further, it fits in perfectly with what Rashi says. Rashi says that when Yaakov says, "Ma'anoira hamakam hazeh, ein zeh kiyim beis elikim v'zeh shara shamayim," this is the portal to heaven. So what does it mean, v'zeh shara shamayim? Rashi says, "Mokam tefillah la'alois tefillah hashamayim." This is the portal where the prayers go up to heaven. So that matches perfectly the Zohar that the ladder represents the prayers, because that's why it's Shara Shamayim. It also makes sense that that's why right afterwards, after seeing in this dream the lesson of tefillah, that Yaakov says a passionate tefillah, Im yiyeh elikim imadi, if Hashem is with me, v'shamati v'shmarani b'derech hazeh, and He protects me as I head to the wicked Laban, and as I'm worried about my brother Esau. But I had a thought, which, you know, it sounds simple, and many great thoughts are. It sounds elementary, but I'll tell you this point I never realized before. The vision of a ladder which towers to the heavens. So there's many rungs to the ladder. That's a very important lesson about tefillah. And that is, if a person wants to have a proper career of prayer, the person must be always climbing rung to rung to rung to rung. And a person always has to ask himself and herself, have I climbed another rung in my campaign of prayer? Or am I still on the same rung? Have I plateaued? Am I stagnating? Or is my prayer constantly advancing? Am I climbing? Did today I climb yet another rung in excellence of prayer? Now this is something that we really need to think about, because many people daven the same way they've davened 20 years ago, or 5 years ago, or a year ago. That's tragic. You have to realize, why do we say the same prayer over and over again? After all, that lends itself to not having kavanah. That lends itself to just doing it by rote. Wouldn't it be better if we are constantly composing new prayers and have the rabbonim of each generation compose new poems and new? This way, we could say a different prayer every few months, every few years. At least it'll have a freshness. The answer is that our prayer, composed by great people like David HaMelech, like the Anshe Knesset Agdolah, is infused with so many secrets and so many messages that even if we dedicate our entire life to one of the prayers, we can't plummet all of its secrets. And therefore, there's so much to do. And that's why I've explained many times, we say in Ashrei, Me Atov Ad Olam Hallelujah. From now and forever I pray. What do you mean from now? I'm saying Ashrei since I'm a little boy. Decades I'm saying Ashrei. A half a century I'm saying Ashrei. So what do you mean Me'atov, from now? No, from now it's different. From now it's better. I'm climbing another rung. Now, in order to do that, you have to constantly work on praying. I'll give you a thought. When I said this, I wanted to give an example. So here's a simple example. After asking Hashem for das in Shemona Esrei, after asking Hashem for the knowledge to be able to ask, that's why it's the first of the middle brachas, because you can't ask until you're granted the knowledge to ask. After asking Hashem for the knowledge to ask, what's the first request? It's telling. The first request is Hashiveinu Avinu L'Sarasem. A Jew has to know, of all the requests, Parnasa, Refuah, everything, Shalom, all the requests, Mashiach, all the requests. The first request the Jew says is, I need more Torah. Return me to the base of Medrash. Let me get a Chavrusa. Because that's life. Ki Yem Chayenu Baruch Yameinu, and Talmud Torah can get Kula. And Im Lamadta Torah Haba, Al Tach Torah L'Atzmach, Ki Lekach V'Yitzorta. So the very first prayer we ask for after we ask for das is Hashiveinu Avinu L'Sarasem. Now, you have that thought in mind. Oh, you climbed another rung. Because now you have a new thought to pray for. And we constantly, prayer is climbing rungs. You have to, you say Baruch Shamar, and you come to the word buffet. There's one gives buffet, one gives a buffet. Buffet is become out to 87 because there's exactly 87 words in Baruch Shamar. That's another rung. That's another climb. You got to climb rungs when you're diving. That's the vision of the land. Now let's start this week's parsha. I'm going to start off with some fireworks. I'm going to start off with Vayishlach Malachim, Yaakov Malachim. Yaakov sent Malachim. Now, Malachim could either mean messengers, agents, or it could mean angels. Now, usually, there is a reason why Malachim are called Tzva Hashem. They only take direction from the Eibishter. They're Malachim Allah. So therefore, there would be a good argument to say Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. It means agents, messengers, like couriers, not angels, because only God sends angels. But comes along Rashi, and Rashi says Malachim Mash. Now, I don't know about you, but unless if you're of the Lubavitcher persuasion, not used to say mash. Rashi could have said Malachi Hashem. There's nothing wrong with the Lubavitcher translation, but I found it interesting that Rashi says Malachi Mamish. Malachi Hashem, Malachi Ma'ala, Malachi Shemayim. So I found that the Chidor writes that Yaakov sent 3 malachim. Now this is already in the Zohar. The 3 malachim have names: Michael, Malkiel, and Shenandiah. Those were the 3 malachim. Michael, Malkiel, and Shenandiah. Shenandiah we don't usually hold up. Her, Hira, but it could be Shinan is learning. So maybe that was a special malach that Yaakov was able to. Right? The Shanan means to learn. Right? So Shenandiah comes along the Chidah and he says Mamish is Michael, Malkiel, Shenandiah. That's the abbreviation. For Michael, Malkiel, Shenandiah, that's Malach Mamish. Those are the Malach. Okay, so you'll say cute. Oh, it's a lot more than that. Comes along the Zohar, and the Zohar says that the gematria of Michal, Malkiel, and Shenandiah exactly is 677, which is the gematria of Ezra's. That's easy to figure out, right? Tuf is 400, Reish is 200, 600, and Ayin Zayin is 77. So Ezra's is 677. And the Zohar says we should have this in mind when we say every morning Ezra's is another wrong. Ezra's Aviseinu Atuhu Me'ayla. That you are the Ezra's Aviseinu, you are the protection, you are the support of our forefathers. Ezra's is the gematria, Michael, Malkiel, Shenandiah, exactly. Okay. But if you think that's stunning, comes along the Marash, and the Marash says, well, wouldn't you know it? Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim is exactly the gematria 677. Exactly. So that's Michael, Malkiel, Shenandiah. That's the gematria of Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. And that's when Rashi says Malachim Mamish. Mamish is Michael, Malkiel, Shenandiah. And that's the gematria Ezra. When we say Ezra, that's how we say. Okay. Getting the money's worth. Okay, but this is a little bit esoteric for us. It's a little lofty for us. Oh, Malkiel, Shenandiah. Okay, it's a little bit. In Yoel Amos, you're right. So the Chavetz Chaim brings it down to earth, and he pulls it down to a very contemporary flake, to a very contemporary flake. Chavetz Chaim says, if you want to look it up, it's in Shmiras Haloshim, Chelik Aleph, Shara Torah Dalet. He says that in the famous Sefer Milas HaTorah, which speaks about all the Milas of Limud HaTorah, it says that when a person is Kaisik B'Torah, there surrounds him Malachim that are created from the words of his mouth, and the Malachim are Kavulay Ayin. They fill as far as the eye can see, because every word is a separate mitzvah. And then he says, and these malachim are tall alpayim parsois, 2,000 parsois. 2,000 parsois is many mil. The Dalet Milan and a parsa, that's 8,000 parsois. So you're talking about these malachim are miles high, towering in the sky. And he says that's the meaning that when a person learns Ki Malachov Yitzavala, the angels are instructed. The angel is instructed L'shmorcha b'chol b'rachecha, to guard you in all your ways. The Chavetz Chaim is explaining, where did Yaakov get Malachim? It's the Torah of Yaakov that he was always learning. Remember, the man, Yaakov Ishtom Yoshev Ha'olam. This is the man who learned Torah in Shebei for 14 years without sleeping. So the Chavetz Chaim then goes on to give an example of how when a person lives righteously, they are surrounded by angels. We all know the pasuk, Chayna Malach Hashem Soviv Li'Yareya Vayichaltzeh. Angels surround a person and save him and deliver him. In Malachim base, you take out a Malachim. It's kedai to learn this at a Shabbos table, to take out a Malachim. The Navi Malachim. It's in Malachim base. Perek Vav, the 6th Perek, from the 14th to the 18th pasuk. I mean, it's right there in the scriptures. It's an amazing story. What happened is Elisha was undermining the Melech Aram, and he was giving over all of Melech Aram's secrets. So the king of Aram sent a battalion to do away with Elisha. This is all recorded in Malach. So the pasuk goes on to say, "Vayashke mishoresh isha likim lakom." And Elisha's attendant got up in the morning, Vayetze, and went out of the tent. Vine schayil soives ear. And there was a whole battalion of warriors, menacing warriors surrounding the city. V'sus merecha, with horses and chariots. Vayomer naroi, and in a panic he runs into Elisha. Aha Adoni, eicha na'aseh. What are we going to do? We're going to be fashmeted. We're going to be pulverized. Vayomer, and Elisha, totally undisturbed, totally untroubled. Vayomer al tiru. Don't worry. Ki rabim asher itanu me'asher oisah. There are many more with us than with them. The Masharis didn't know what he was talking about. Vayispalel Elisha. Elisha prayed, Vayomer Hashem, Pekachno eseina. My Masharis is scared. Open his eyes and let him see. Vayira, and all of a sudden he saw, Vayifkach Hashem eseina. Hashem opened his eyes. Excuse me. Pekachno eseina vayira. Let him see. Open his eyes. Vayifkach Hashem eseina. Eseina anar. Hashem opens the eyes of the youth. Vayar v'hinei ahor molei susim v'rechev. The mountain was full of horses and chariots. Eish, fiery ones. Sviva Elisha. Around a person that lives righteously are angels. We can't see them. We can't see them. But there's divine protection. We have to know that it's not only Torah. It says in the 4th parak of Avos that every mitzvah we do, you call a parent, you visit the sick, you help a friend, you create malachim. And there's big protection. Now, of course, we only train our prayers to Hashem. We could ask the angels to intercede for us, but we only pray to Hashem. But we are supposed to give our koros hatoiv to Hashem's messengers. We do it all the time. And it's important to have kavanah. The biggest place we do it is in Shalom Aleichem. Friday night. We say to the malachim of the week, say tzchem l'shalom, malachei ha'shalom. And to the angels of Shabbos, we say, Vayachem l'shalom. But that's not the only place. In benching, we say, Ba'amorim. The one that's up high, Yalamdu, Aleihem v'aleinu. V'amorim, the one that's up high Yolamdu, be Malabit Tzvus. Aleihem v'aleinu. Who's the Aleihem? So it's true that in the Oitzer HaTfilas, the Artsco follows this lead. They translate Aleihem is the people that we're mispallel for eventually that might not be sitting with us. Some people daven for their parents or Achmavarkas, Havimari, Besim Maraski, even if they're not here. That's the way the young feel it learns. But the Dvar Aaron, Hashem Yin Kumdama, Isaiah Ketzadik Lebrachas, was the Yogan Aleim, that Ketzadik Karish Lebracha. He says, Bamor Yolamdu Aleihem, this is another wrong in davening. Yolamdu Aleihem is the angels. The angels that surround us. Please be malamed on them tzvos. It's one of the Pashim Pshotim in Bamor Yolamdu Aleihem. The Aleihem is the angels. These are the malachim that Yaakov sent. Now it says, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim el ochiv arza seir stay edom. Excuse me, I wrote it wrong. It's el esavah. Vayishlach Yaakov malachim el esav ochiv arza seir stay edom. So the Chidah brings down from his father. It's beautiful to see how he calls his father Ateres Roishi, the crown of my head. Mori, my master. So his father asks, why does it say Arza Seir Stay Adam? It was just saying Yisham Yaakov Malachim El Esavach. El Esavach. Why does it say Arza Seir Stay Adam? So the Chidah says that his father says an interesting shot that he has from Kabbalah, from others, that at that time, that when Yaakov sent the Malachim, Esav was engaged in a war in the land of Seir. And therefore says the Chidah's father, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim, Yaakov sent angels El Esav Ochiv, and the message was, the first message was, Arza Seir, the land of Seir where you are engaged in battle, should become Stay Edom. It should be known as your field. You're the Edom. You should conquer it, and it should be known as Stay Edom. So he was giving them a bracha. That's the way the Chidah's father was. The Chidah says a different shot. The Chidah says it's inserted over here. Why did Yaakov feel that the enmity was still so strong? I mean, it's already over 14 years. Why did Yaakov feel much longer than 14 years, right? It's already many years, right? So why did Yaakov feel that the enmity was so strong, right? It's already 14 plus 22. That's many years. So why did he feel the enmity so strong? Because he heard that Esav called the name of his land Eretz Seir to remember the hair that Yaakov put on his hands to trick him and steal the brachas. And he called it Stay Edom to remember the Haliteni Nom and Odom Azeh, the red soup that he used to get the brachas. When he saw that Esav was doing all these machinations to remember the hate, to stoke the hate. So this is why Yaakov had to send malachim, he had to send presents. It's reminiscent of something else in this week's parsha. It's a very fascinating rokeah. It says, "Atileni no miyadochi miyadesa." Of course, that's repetitious. Save me from my brother from Esau. I mean, you know your brother is Esau. You only have one brother. So then you know miyadochi. What's miyadochi miyadesa? So the famous text that everybody says is that save me when he acts like Hochi, and save me when he acts like Esau. He's dangerous either way. If he acts kind, then I'm threatened, learning from him all the bad things. If he acts bad, then he could kill me. So Atileni no in either guise. If he's Hochi, if he's nice like a brother, I don't want to learn Binyamin, Miyad Esav, and if he's murdering me, I don't want to be killed. Says the Rikeach a different shot. Very fascinating shot. Rikeach says that Esav, after the incident of him stealing the brachas, Yaakov stealing the brachas from Yitzchak, Esav had a child. And he called the child Achi. Why did he call the child Achi? He had a child, and he called the child Achi. Why did he call the child Achi? Because he wanted to remember his hate to my brother. And he commanded Achi that you have to kill Yaakov whenever you find him. So says the Rikeach, Hatzileni no miyad Achi, save me from this son, from my nephew, Achi, and miyad Esav. Save me from both of them. It's interesting, the Yotzer Haplois in the footnote says that it's a Rikeach, but it's very difficult to understand, since when it lists the children of Esav, it doesn't list this child. So he says maybe the Rikeach holds that here is where he's mentioned. When he says, Hatzileni no miyad Achi. By the way, this idea of having children to remember things was used in the reverse way when Binyamin named all his 10 children after Yosef, right? Like Chupim, that I didn't see his chuppah and he didn't see my chuppah. Mupim, Chupim, Var, all 10 children are named that he shouldn't forget Yosef. That was a type. Here, Esav named the child Achi Lara, that he shouldn't forget the hatred that he has to his brother. Speaking about names, the Pirkei Masik brings down a fascinating story. It says that there was a couple that couldn't have children, many years. And finally, when they did have children, after they did have children, they lost the child. The child was a miscarriage. So in desperation, they went to Gedolim, and the Gedolim gave them the answer that they should learn 2 halachas in Shmiras Halashon every day. 2 halachas in Shmiras Halashon every day. Nowadays, anybody that blogging is a waste of time most of the time. But anybody that blogs, that's the Yoshvei Kronos of our time. You know, they used to say that the sign of a worthless person, a rake, is that he used to sit on the corners. Yoshvei Kronos. Why? Because then he didn't miss out on anything. He sat on the corners and everybody that passed by, he was able to waste time. The Yoshvei Kronos of today's day and age are those people that sit on the computer and make meaningless responses and engage in worthless debates. It's debates shall happen. It's not going to change it. But the whole day they're debating, going trolling from one website to another website, and engaging in meaningless chat. That's Yoshvei Kronos. But it should make it iconic that if you blog, you have to learn 2 halachas of Chayv every day. But anyway, the Gedolim recommended this couple that they should learn. Rav Segel used to say that this was a big school. From Manchester Rosh Hashiva. So the couple started learning with great devotion 2 halachas of time every day, and shortly thereafter they were blessed with a child. So now came a disagreement between the wife and her husband. The wife wanted to name the son that they had Yisrael Meir after the Chaim. And the father said, look, we waited such a long time. My father is still alive. I want to name it after my grandfather. It will give my father tremendous nachas. He never had a name for his father. It would be a mitzvah to give it up a name. I want to name it after my father. So they went and they asked Rav Zilberstein. And Rav Zilberstein said that we see that Moshe Rabbeinu had a great miracle. When Paro abducted him, under the accusation of Dasan and Hamirim that he killed the Mitzvah. So the executioner already swung the great sword down on Moshe Rabbeinu's neck. And his life was over. But his neck turned into marble, and it didn't get cut off. So it was a great miracle. And he would name his second child Eliezer, Elikei Bezri, V'yatzileinu B'cheref Bar. But he didn't name his first child that. Even though the miracle happened way before he had children, would have children if his neck would have been detached. His head was detached from his neck. He named his first child Gershon. Gera Yisi Be'eretz Nachriya. Because to remember that you're in a foreign land and that you shouldn't chas v'sholem become like the Midianites is a more important lesson. And you have to first, if you have something that's important to remember, that has to come first, even before Kibbut Av. And therefore he said, you have to remember that you made a commitment to learn 2 halachas every day. And it shouldn't stop now because Hashem gave you a child. And therefore you have to name the child Yisrael name. That was exact Rav Zilberstein. So interesting how these shilas come up. You had a famous shilah that's brought down in the Leket Yosher, where a father wanted to give the name of the child after his own father. But the child was circumcised on Rosh Hashanah with a minhag is to give the name Yitzchak in honor of a Akedas Yitzchak. And the Trumas Hadeshin paskin that you and your father have a chiyuv to honor Yitzchak. And they gave the name Yitzchak. But I want to add that in all these cases, it's only if there's not going to be machlokes. If there's going to be machlokes, then you name that there shouldn't be machlokes. And I was gratified to see that I brought up the subject of that there shouldn't be machlokes. So I was gratified to see that the Tiv Gittin writes Beferish, the master of the name. Tiv Gittin says Beferish that Pa'omim Nitin Hashem Kidei Lahashvois HaMachlokes Be'Bal Ishta. And sometimes the name is given to make peace between the husband and wife. So I'll give you an example. The famous case brought down, it's not necessarily machlokes, but the Yamshel Shlomo, the Marshal himself writes that his grandfather had a child, and there was a dilemma, because the child had 2 very choshev zaydas. His father was Reb Meir, and the shver was Reb Uri. So what do you do? So the Marshal writes, they came to a compromise and called the child Shneur. Because Shneur is Shnei Or, 2 lights. Meir is a light and Uri is a light. So the name Shneur was a compromise, Shnei Or, 2 lights. That's where the name Shneur comes from. Nowadays, what we do is we give more than one name. And it's interesting that the Chidor himself had 3 names already. Although in the Gemara we hardly ever find it, although there are those that say 28 times in Bavli is people with 2 names, such as Avi Yossi, Avi Shol. Others say that that's not 2 names. Abba is really the title. But nowadays the Chidor was Chaim Yosef David. Even the Chassam Sofer himself gave his son 2 names. The Chassam Sofer's 2 names are Shmuel ben Yamin. Now we've come to a great lesson. It's a great lesson. It's a fundamental of human relationships. But I will tell you that this is a very hard one. Very hard. It's a profound thing to know, but it's a very hard one. Who Amar Lifneihem? Esav passed by. Vayishtachu Arza Shiva Pa'amim. And Yaakov bows down 7 times. Vayoretz Esav L'krasai. Vayichapkeyu, he hugs him. Vayishakeyu, and he kisses him. Now, we're used to phony hugging and kissing. Because we found out by love. Kissing to feel where the diamonds are, where the jewels are. Right? A politician's kiss. Right? But that's not what Rashi says. Rashi goes out of his way to say that this was sincere friendship. Now, look at Rashi. Rashi says, when it says, Vayikapkei, we hugged him, Vayizgaldo Rachamov. He was motivated to feel compassion. When he saw him bow down, all these bowing. And then Rashi says, Vayishalkeyu. Rashi says, although B'yadua she'esim sayna es Yaakov, halacha esim sayna es Yaakov, el shenichmaru racham avois hashah. But at that moment, there was something in his heart that was stirred, and says Rashi, B'noshkoi b'chol liba, and he kissed him with all his heart. Wow. The real thing. The real thing. So the Sefer Parsha Makima says a profound idea here. This is so important. It's so profound. He says that the relationships function according to the pasuk in Mishnah. Kemayim aponim elponim kein leiva adam la'adam. Like when you look at your reflection in the water, so is heart of man to man. So just like when you put your reflection in the water, if you're smiling, you'll see in the water a smile. If you're grimacing, you'll see in the water a grimace. If you're laughing, you'll see laughter. Kein leiva adam la'adam. Now, okay, we all know this. This is almost a cliche. But what the Parsha Makima is teaching us is that Yaakov was able to muster, when he bowed down, a sincere bowing to Esav. Now that's very hard. This is the Esav who said, Yikru Abel Avi, and I'll kill my brother. This is the same Esav that sent Eliphaz and stripped Yaakov of everything till he was naked and wanted Yaakov's head. Now, to be able to sincerely give Esav a chance and bow down in brotherly respect to an older brother is almost impossible. But Yaakov was able to do that. And therefore he came back. Now, this is not an easy thing to do at all. But Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld relates a story. It says there was a story in Poland that there was a Musser in town. And this Musser, if you did anything, he informed, he was close to the authorities, and you ended up in jail, or worse. And everybody was frightened at him to the point that he had a seat at the Mizrach in Shul, and they gave him shishi, the aliyah. They were frightened of him. So one day, the Rav was present when they called him up for shishi. And the Rav said, what is this? It says, you're not supposed to be frightened of any man. So when they called him up to shishi, so the Rav gave out a scream. What shyness do you have to the Torah Kedusha? Say Tomei! Get out of here, Tom! So of course the Moses said, holding his finger up to the Rav, I'll get you! One day the Rav was traveling, Moiser on a very powerful, fiery horse came galloping at the Rav. And the Rav thought, he relates, you guys relates, the Rav thought, he's only this way because he didn't get a good upbringing. If he would have gotten a good upbringing, this is not the person he would be. And this is Rabbi Yisrael relates the story. And the man halted the horse, got off the horse, and came and asked the Rav for forgiveness and went on his way. Now, you know, it sounds simple, but it's really not simple at all. Because if you think about people that wronged you, and Taka give you angry looks whenever you see them, when you see these people, you don't feel friendly towards them. You feel slighted. You feel maybe disgust. You feel anger. But you don't look at them with a punim of anything remotely friendly. The Parsha Makima is teaching us that if you want to change a relationship with a difficult person, then you have to be able to muster, not show, sincere feelings to this person. Well, who knows? This person could have had parents that didn't treat him right. This person could have had a bad upbringing. But it's a lesson. Yaakov was able to change a consuming hate. He was able to change somebody who named a child Ochi to remember the hatred of his brother. He was able to change someone who told Eliphaz, if you don't bring back his head, I'll have your head. As we said over from the Medrash last week, he was able to change that with 7 bowings, sincere bowings, to the point that Rashi testified that he kissed them. And it's amazing Lashon that Rashi used. He kissed him with all his heart. Now this lesson is, of course, most important in marriage. Because if you're going to show your spouse an angry look, a look of disgust, a look of displeasure for what your spouse did, and you're right. You should be disgusted. You should be displeased. You should be angry. It wasn't fair. But you're not going to get it changed. But if you could say, well, she is pregnant. The children are driving her crazy. She is lonely. She is worried. Otherwise, she wouldn't be that way. And look with a different face. Then that will change her look to you. It's a more ridiculous. So the Sikta Zadrasi says that Vayichanes Pnei Ha'ir is also translated as a lashon of Chen. When he came to Shem, he showed them Chen. And the Sikta learns from here a cloud. Shetzorach Adam laharzik b'toiva l'mokum sheyesh lo yanomine. A person has to show favor to the place that he gets benefit. I'm in Staten Island now since 1969. First in yeshiva, then B'li'ayin Har as a Rav for over 30 years. I have to do things with Staten Island to be massive toiva to Staten Island. Massive toiva to Staten Island. Try to go around and speak in all the different shuls. To be massive toiva, Vayichan as Pnei Ha'ir. So it says that Yaakov set up shmoket, he set up marketplace. The idea of Akaras HaTorah. I saw such an amazing story about Rabbi Yisrael Grossman in Eretz Yisrael. When Rabbi Yisrael Grossman was 10 years old, it was during the time of World War II, and his parents, who were penniless, sent him to Yeshiva Tiferes Yisrael in Haifa. And The yeshiva had no money. There was barely any food to eat. Now, I don't know if you know, but without food, it's very hard to learn. You know, in our yeshiva, when I was growing up in the yeshiva by Ramosha, Staten Island, the food was always excellent. I remember Mrs. Yeager and then Mr. Yeager, Aleim HaShalom, they made the most delicious, I still remember the food, the most delicious food. And Ramosha put a tremendous priority on this. Because it made Kemach Ein Tov. He put a big priority on it. I remember the food was of the greatest quality. We used to look forward so much to Mr. Yeager made soup with such love. He used to first fry, slice up carrots and fry it in oil to give it a real good taste, to make the stock for the soup. I remember how much love he put in. I remember how he made 800 linses for Shavuos, handmade linses. How much we would look forward to it. He made a special chunk for Thursday night for those that learn Mishmar. Then a special chunk for Friday night for those that learn very late Friday night. Another chunk for Shabbos. How we would look forward to the chunk. But by Rav Yisrael Grossman was a whole different story. It was World War II. Yeshiva had nothing. There was no food. It's very hard to learn Torah and empty stuff. He related that one of his classmates came from a very wealthy home. And the classmate would get constantly packages of not just food, but delicacies, cakes, sweets. And this chaver would share it with him. And he would say, it was mechayev that he should be able to learn. It wasn't just simply a boy getting snapped. He says this carried him through those critical formative years. Then suddenly one day the parents of this boy decided the boy had to leave the yeshiva, took him away. He didn't even get a chance to thank him. He said in the course of his life, and he became a gadol and everything, he searched and he searched and he searched for over a half a century to find this classmate to thank him. 70 years later, in Rav Grossman's shul, a man walked in. He was a new face. Rav Grossman went over to him to say Shalom Aleichem, told him his name, where is he from, and he realized he was this classmate. And he hugged him, and he said, I want you to know I've been looking for you for 70 years. Baruch Hashem, Hashem gives me the ability to tell you that what I am today is a lot to do with the sweets that you shared with me when I was 10 years old. Because I don't know if I could have kept up learning without the food that you gave me. And I said to myself, what a story. What a story. How many times could we look back and say that if it wasn't for this friend, if it wasn't for this teacher, if it wasn't for this Rebbe, now of course, Kal V'Chayim, if it wasn't for our parents, this is curse I tell you. It's a very important lesson. I'm going to tell you another story that the Pirya Mosik says, excuse me, I'm telling you 2 stories in a row. I know the Olam gets nervous when I tell stories, they want to hear Torah. But these stories are also Torah, you know. But the Pirya Mosik says, it says in the beginning of the parasha, Vayira Yaakov Moed, he was very afraid that maybe somebody would be killed. Vayetzer Eloi, and it also grieved him that he might have to cause harm to others. Shelo Yazitu Acherim. So over here, Rav Chaim Palagi says an amazing thing. He says that if a person is very careful not to do something that will cause pain to others, Hashem will help him Yisayu min hashamayim sheritzono yikuyin. Hashem will help him that he'll succeed, that he won't cause pain to other people. V'yizke lebonim shleimin umitosa shleima kiyah. He'll be zoichet to have perfect children, and all of his descendants should be good, like Yaakov, Jeshik, they got Dina. So he brings a Mordecai story. He says, Baruch Hashem, a father, was Zeicha, his daughter became a cow. Africa. In Eretz Yisrael, there's a big Messiah. You have to buy a dira. So the father looks for a dira, and he doesn't have that much money. Baruch Hashem, in a beautiful Torah neighborhood, he finds a dira mitzia, somebody has to unload it. He finds a dira, unbelievable, for an unbelievable price. He could afford it. Unbelievable, like half what they're asking for in most places. A vilna mitzia, a blinda mitzia. So of course, first he brings his daughter to look at it with the chassid, and they say, it's great, Tata, more than we can imagine, what a beautiful. And then the Kala comes to her father, Tati, there's a problem. What's the problem? Tati, I found out that in that house, one of my very close friends lives. And she hasn't gotten shidduchim for a long time. And here I am, as a young married girl, I'm going to have to pass her every day. And not only that, she has a sister older than her, and she's also not married. I don't see how I could do that. I don't see how I could be putting a knife in my friends every time I'm going to come in happy walking in with my husband, and she's going to have to see that. Tati, I don't know. I don't know if it's the right thing to do. So the father, what did he do? They ask a shayla. So the father goes to some gazon. The father goes to one of the relatives of Reb Chaim Kanievsky and says, I have to ask Reb Chaim a shayla. So he says, look, everybody has to ask Reb Chaim from all over the world. Tell me this shayla. I'll tell you if it's right. So he tells him a shayla. He says, that's a shayla. What do you think? Think the friend doesn't know she's becoming a college? No, you're going to waste Reb Chaim's time. So he persisted and he persisted. He got into Reb Chaim Kanievsky. He asked the Shofar, hey, Reb Chaim Kanievsky answers all shaylas, just like this. He sat and he thought and he thought and he thought, and he refused to answer the shayla. He sent them to Rav Steiner. First he comes to Rav Steiner. Rav Steiner thinks, he says, look, it's mamonos. You can't find a dira. You could only afford this dira. Your children have to live. But then he said, but how could you gouge out somebody else's eyes? How can you? His daughter is right. How can you gouge out these girls' eyes? He says, how could you do it? How could you? So the end result was, is he asked Rav Steiner, could we rent the house, since it's such a blindness, we'll rent it with an option to buy. In the meantime, we'll rent for our children somewhere else. So he said, that's fine. On the night that the girl got married, the older sister became a Kala. And a few weeks later, the other one became a Kala. So that they were quickly able to move into the house. But this is the idea of worrying not to cause somebody else a hazard. Vayitzelah. And everybody has to be sensitive to it. I'm not issuing my feelings on this. I'm not sure. I'm with myself in the subject. But you go to some weddings, and the chuppah takes a half an hour, because Kanai Nahar, the family, has so many married children. All the married children walk down, and all their children walk down, and one after another, after another, after another, it takes a half an hour. There are people in the crowd, they have 5 daughters that are not married. There are other people in the crowd that don't have children. It's a question. I'm not. Look, on the other hand, it's a big nachas to grandparents, parents. I'm not making any authoritative statement. You see, if it's a mitzvah, so we say mitzvah Hashem bara me'ira seinai, right? But walking down, that's not part of the chuk. It's probably a goyishim. It's not part of it. It's not makir b'kedusha. So these are things where you have to really worry vayitzalah to cause other people pain. It needs a lot of thought. Ki b'makli avarti as a yardin hazeh. What's that as a yardin? Ki b'makli avarti as a yardin. What do you mean a yardin hazeh? So Rabbeinu Ephraim says, we always say myself a similar bottom. He says as a yardin hazeh, exactly at the place Yaakov crossed many years later when Yeshua entered his head. So that's where they crossed. That's the yardin hazeh. Rabbeinu Ephraim says, now I want to, she would do something I found fascinating. Yaakov tells them, Hosiru Eloheyan Necha, remove any foreign idols. After they attack Shem, make sure to remove any Elohei Necha. Rabbeinu Ephraim says, this is fascinating. Elohei Necha is exactly the gematria of 316. That's the gematria of Yeshu. Yoshka. Remove Elohei Necha. That's Yeshu. 316. Yeshu, some say, stands for Yimach Shemoi B'Zichra. That's Yeshu, like they say, Min. Heretics that the Mishnah, the Gemara always calls Min. A Min is Min Yeshu Neitzu. That's Yeshu. Comes along the Rabbeinu Tam, and Rabbeinu Tam says that he asked B'Chaloi. You can't get more interesting than this. We all know Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam says he asked in a dream, where is there a makor for Yeshu in the Torah? Yeshu would turn the world crazy. Crusades with Inquisition. He would embroil the world, make the world crazy. One man! So he was told in a dream that the pasuk that says, it's an amazing dream, Elohei Nechar Haaretz. Elohei Nechar Haaretz is exactly the gematria Yeshu v'Miriam. It's Miriam Magdala. Rabbeinu Yehuda Chassid says, Umechir Kelev, exchange of a dog. Umechir Kelev is the gematria Yeshu. And the Eitzar Plois brings down a footnote to this. That is interesting. There's a sefer called Toldos Yeshu Neitzu, which the Chassam Sofer used to cite, where he says that what happened with Yeshu, why do you think that they created a legend of a virgin birth? Why do you think they created such a legend? Because Yeshu was a mamzer. What happened was, he writes, is that there was somebody by the name of Yochanan that was Mekadesh Miriam, his mother. But there was a neighbor, Yosef Pandir, that had a desire for her, and tricked her in the dark of night to thinking that he was Yochanan. And that's how Yeshu was born. So it's a Mechir Kelev. Now, there is even a makar in the Torah for the claim of a virgin birth. That's a famous thing. It says, Ki Yisescha, if you are seduced by Achicha ben Imecha, there's going to come one of your own, your brother. Yeshua was a Jew. And he's going to claim ben Imecha, that he's the son of your mother. He's going to complain that it's a virgin birth. Only from a woman. That's the real makar. Ki Yisescha, Achicha ben Imecha. So much to talk about. I feel I'm cheating you by not talking enough about the things in this parasha. I really feel I'm cheating you. I will say that we have here a tape from 15 years ago. And it's available if you want it. My voice sounds a little different. It's me though. It sounds a little different. Somebody tells me I sound a little younger. We also have the pocket-sized Power Venture steel for $10 with all 300 plus pages available over here tonight. You can get multiple copies for simchas, for shul dinners, for mitzvahs. Talk to me about it. I want to conclude with a Maisa which the Torah brings down in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. It's a pshat. Vayi b'shchayin Yisrael ba'artzai, when Klal Yisrael, when Yaakov dwelled in the land, Vayelech Ruvain vayishkav es Bila pilegesh aviv. Literally, it means that Ruvain went and slept with Bila, the concubine of his father. Vayishmar Yisrael, and Yaakov heard. Vayiyu b'nei Yaakov shneim es. But the children of Yaakov were 12. That means that they were all equally righteous. And of course, whoever says Kalayim and Ruvain Toya ain't eloquent. It's sort of simple explanation, which everybody says, is that Ruvain saw that Yaakov moved his tent into the tent, his bed into the tent of Bilhah, and Ruvain was very upset. He said, it's one thing that my mother Leah had to play second fiddle to Rachel, but now she has to play second fiddle to Rachel's maidservant Bilhah, and he went ahead and he took his father's marital bed and moved it from Bilhah's tent to Leah's tent. And that was considered as if he slept with Bilhah, because he went into the marital room and he took the bed out of Bilhah's tent and put it into Leah's tent. That's the way most people learn. But the Torah said, the pshat is as follows, that when Ruvain heard that Yaakov was planning to move his bed and take permanent residence by Bilhah, so Ruvain, in defending the honor of his mother, left the family. Left the family. He said, I can't live here. I have to protest the honor of my mother. And when Yaakov heard this, he recalled Ruvain and put his bed back in Leah's tent. And now that Ruvain returned, they're 12. And let me read the pasuk and show you how the Rabbi Yehuda Chassid learns the pasuk. Vayihi b'shchayin Yisrael ba'artzai, when they were dwelling in the land. Vayelech Ruvain, and Ruvain left because he heard that Vayishkav es Bilhah pilegesh aviv, because he heard that his father was taking residence by Bilhah. Vayishma Yisrael, and Yisrael heard that Ruvain left in protest. He recalled him, Vayiyu b'nei Yisrael b'nei Yaakov shnaim as. Says Rabbi Yehuda Chassid that a Chassid echad darshan this pshat b'Rabbim, and Ruvain came to him in a dream, v'noshtoi al rosheh, and kissed him on the head. Now it's fascinating that throughout the generations we keep on having this story. Rav Shmuel Shmelkim in Nikolsburg explained the pasuk this way, and testifies that Reuven came to him in a dream and kissed him on the head. And the Steichemed writes that a 6 or 7-year-old child explained the pasuk this way, and Reuven came to him and kissed him on the head. Now there's several important things to reflect upon. We are positioned to daven Marav at 11:15. If somebody gets ready after Kaddish, go over. Because if we don't daven right away, they make us wait till 11:30. So start your engines, Rabbi said. And again, I remind you that we have the share from Vayishlach 5758 CD available. Tonight's CD will be available shortly. We have the power benching pocket-sized copy if you want to share it with somebody, you want to take some for Hanukkah presents. They're available at $10. They're steel. First thing we see from here is you can't sit idly by when somebody you love, their honor is being tarnished. You know, we're living in a world that's not my business. I have my own problems. Reuven said, I can't live here if his mother isn't alive. But I can't live and watch such an affront. I can't. Can't live it. Amazing thing. There's such a sense of conscience. I can't watch this happen. No, we don't have that nowadays. We have nowadays that people say, look, I'm not making any trouble. I'm not going to get any problem. Reuven said, I can't live here. Can't live here. And we find another thing. Rav Shmuel Shmelkim in Nicholsburg. Stay coming. You know how many thousands of years Reuven is already in Gan Eden? And even so, he's so makatoy to somebody that removes any slight to his honor. And somebody might think that he committed an adultery and slept with Bilah. That thousands of years later, he's still makatoy and comes back in a dream and kisses somebody on the head. Tremendous lesson. The Rabbi say, please tell other people about this shir. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful week. Rabbi Chananya L'Rakashama. Ratza HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi says, Yisrael. Rafika Chibel Am Torah Mitzvahs. Shnema B'noi Kofei Tzman Zivkoi. Yad L'Torah B'Yad.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.